Fantasy Football 2017 NFL Week 15 Cheat Sheet. Need some quick tips to assemble your fantasy lineup for Week 15? For most owners, this weekend marks the semi-final round of the fantasy football postseason. That means it's time to agonize over roster decisions. We've combed the far reaches of the internet and culled only the choicest fantasy tips and advice for your quick consumption. Below you'll find easily digestible nuggets from multiple fantasy experts, addressing some of the critical situations fantasy owners will face from week to week. Dig in and dominate. Injury decisions: Amari Cooper, WR, Raiders. An ankle injury that Cooper aggravated in Week 14 likely will keep him out in Week 15. Cooper has been a big disappointment in fantasy this season, and if his owners have managed to get this far without him, they obviously have other options. Zach Ertz, Eagles. Ertz cleared concussion protocol and practiced Wednesday. He should return to TE1 status despite the loss of quarterback Carson Wentz. Philadelphia visits the New York Giants in Week 15, and Ertz will be looking to settle back into the offense while Nick Foles takes over behind center. Foles could look Ertz's way quite a bit simply as a check-down option. Either way, Ertz owner should have him in the lineup. Why you need to start Aaron Rodgers in the fantasy football playoffs: Leonard Fournette, RB, Jaguars. Fournette, quad, was not seen at practice Thursday, a day after missing team drills. His owners will need to monitor things following Friday's workouts, which is not what they want to hear heading into an important week in fantasy leagues. Count me among the owners hoping Fournette can go. DeAndre Hopkins, WR, Texans. Hopkins, toe, sat out Thursday's practice after not being listed on Wednesday's practice report. He's second to Antonio Brown in receptions and yards, so barring something unforeseen, Hopkins should be your standard WR1 this weekend. Alvin Kamara, RB, Saints. Kamara, concussion, got in a full practice Wednesday and all signs point to him taking on his usual workload against the New York Jets. Joe Mixon, RB, Bengals. Mixon returned to practice Thursday and was limited as he works his way back from a concussion. There should be an update Friday, but this is not a good matchup for the rookie tailback against a strong Vikings defense in Minnesota. Robert Woods, WR, Rams. All signs points to Woods returning for a huge matchup against division rival Seattle. Woods, shoulder, should see his normal amount of snaps, so his owners need to consider him against a Seahawks secondary that isn't quite as strong because of injuries. Fringe starters: Mike Evans, WR, Buccaneers. It seems crazy, right? Evans was a top 10 pick in most fantasy leagues, and while he has failed to produce even one 100-yard performance this season, through the first 7 games of the year, he had 6 double-digit outings and 4 touchdowns. But since then, 3 games with 2 receptions or less, and 1 week in which he was suspended. Oh, and 0 touchdowns. Yes, Jameis Winston has been hurt, but Tampa Bay's offense has underachieved even when Winston was healthy. So what to do with Evans? The Bucs are home against the Falcons. Evans had 6 catches for 78 yards at Atlanta in Week 12. The pundits are out in full force and are against playing Evans this weekend. His owners probably don't have the luxury of sitting him even if they have been getting by with his limited production. Perhaps some owners drafted extremely well or picked up other wideouts to provide depth along the way. While Evans is 24th among wide receivers in scoring, when it's all said and done, he's too risky to bench. On even very talented rosters, Evans would be in the mix for WR2 and/or flex spots. Fantasy Football Scout: can Nick Foles keep Philly's fantasy-friendly offense afloat? Chris Hogan, WR, Patriots. Hogan returned from a 4-week absence following a shoulder injury, only to have a very quiet game in Week 14. Tom Brady and New England typically play very well following a poor performance, so if you buy into the bounce-back performance theory, then Hogan is a candidate for Week 15 success. It's the biggest game of the season for the Patriots. Their opponent, the Steelers, just gave up a big outing to Joe Flacco. All that sounds like a recipe for success for Hogan. Some pundits are optimistic and believe he's worth starting given his early season production. Hogan remained limited in Thursday's practice, but nothing points to him having issues suiting up for this weekend's game. Jordy Nelson, WR, Packers. Nelson offers some risk since he's been non-existent in fantasy since the injury to QB Aaron Rodgers. Now he gets Rodgers back in Week 15 and there is plenty of optimism for the Green Bay wideout. Nelson's stats are better with Rodgers, so there's a lot of positive feelings surrounding Nelson entering the weekend. Nelson owners have been getting by without him for several weeks, and if they have made it this far, they obviously have other options. But it's very tough to sit Nelson with Rodgers back in the mix. Theo Riddick, RB, Lions. As an owner of Riddick in a league where my backfield is thin, the increase in his workload comes at a terrific time. But be warned, Detroit coach Jim Caldwell has said he expects Amir Abdullah, neck, to be back in the mix in Week 15. Certainly that could reduce Riddick's ceiling against a Bears defense that has been a sieve against the run, having surrendered 4 100-yard games over the past 6 weeks. Riddick owners hope when it comes to playing this weekend, the Lions will simply look at his production the past 2 weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, Riddick has had the best 2 games of his season, tallying 155 yards from scrimmage and 3 touchdowns. While Abdullah may play, Riddick's upside might be too much to ignore. Lottery tickets that could pay off Tyrell Williams, WR, Chargers. Williams doesn't receive a lot of targets, but seems to make the most of them. In Week 14, Williams hauled in all 4 of his targets for 132 yards and a touchdown. That came 2 weeks after catching 3 balls for 58 yards and a score. Phillip Rivers and Los Angeles face a Chiefs defensive unit ranked number 28 against the pass. Owners desperate for a WR2 or flex play with upside might consider Williams, hoping that Keenan Allen can continue to draw double teams and open up the field for his teammate. Read more from the Post. 3 anthem protesters among NFL Man of the Year award nominees. The Eagles just lost Carson Wentz, and their shot at the Super Bowl. NFL. NFLPA investigating handling of Tom Savage's concussion. Dennis Rodman wants Trump to send him back to North Korea so he can cool tensions. LiAngelo and LaMelo Ball sign with Lithuanian